Hey folks, and welcome to another video from Irish Ham Radio. I'm Dave, EI5IMB, and this video is a follow-up to my previous video on QSLing and logging and the questions that I asked. So stay tuned and I'm going to give you some of the feedback that I got. So in my previous video, folks, I had asked a number of questions about QSL cards, confirmations on electronic QSL and different things like that, and I got a lot of feedback. There was a good discussion when I posted the video on the IRTS Facebook page, and a few people even came back to me directly as well, and there was a good bit of conversation around it. So I've got a good bit of feedback, and things have definitely moved on from the last video for me when I showed you when I had just received my first batch of QSL cards. And now I'm in the thick of receiving, as you can see, some QSL cards and sending cards. So let's get to it. So this was the feedback. So one of the questions I asked was, what was the best way to deal with QSL cards? So how to request them from somebody that you wanted one from and go about sending them. So the main thing I can tell you about that really is, if you look at the person's profile on QRZ.com, and most amateur radio operators do have a profile on QRZ.com, almost all, it would be nearly fair to say, maybe not everybody, but almost all. And generally their how they deal with QSL and QSL cards and confirmations is detailed in that. So if you go into their, search them on QRZ.com and go into their details, you'll see that whether they use Logbook of the World or not, and whether they send paper QSL or not, and how to deal with them. So the summary of the ways that people generally deal with QSL cards, I have found fall into about 5 categories, and they would be this. So number 1, you just ask somebody for a QSL card and they'll send it to you for free, no questions asked, as long as your log obviously matches. Number 2, they may be happy to send it directly, but they may request you pay them maybe via PayPal or a self-addressed envelope or a stamped addressed envelope or something like that to cover the postage of the card to you. A third way of dealing with things seems to be that they're happy to send it to you for free, but they might ask you to send you yours first, and then once they receive yours, they'll send you one back for free, direct. The fourth one is people who want to send by bureau only. They just don't do direct. They want to send it by bureau only. And that's fair enough as well. The bureau is a great service. I've actually joined it myself. Also, I haven't sent anything through it yet, nor received anything through it yet. But some of the people that I've contacted when I'm looking for cards have said that they'll send via bureau. So I said, fair enough. So I'll send them one via the bureau also. And the fifth category of person who is somebody who just doesn't do paper QSL. They only have electronic or no QSL at all. And that's just that's fair enough. That's just another one of the categories. So that's the 5 categories of how people QSL with paper cards in my experience. So from what I've learned and from the feedback I've gotten, from what I've learned myself over the last month or so since I've started to look into the paper QSL area. Personally, what I am doing is I really want to get a paper QSL card from my first contact in every country. So the first contact that I have in every country. And I have been looking at everybody's QRZ.com page regarding QSL and some of the people, but what I've been doing is I've been actually emailing anybody. So if you're a first contact for me in whatever country it is, I have just been emailing them based on their email address on QRZ.com and telling them they were my first ever contract in country, whatever it is, and that I would love to get a paper QSL card from them, and would they send it direct. Even if their QRZ.com page says that they don't necessarily do it direct, I ask them anyway. Some of them have come back and said, yeah, no problem. Some of them have come back and say, yeah, no problem, but pay them a few euro for the postage, and you could do that usually on PayPal. Some of them have said no, that they only do bureau, or they don't send at all. So But that's what I'm trying to do. As you can see behind me here, I've started to get a bit of a collection. The other question I asked was, if you are going for example, for the DXCC award, 100 countries worked, and you're using Logbook of the World for that as the ARRL award it. And say, for example, you have a contact with a particular country and that particular operator does not use LOTW electronically. I asked the question, if they did send you a paper QSL card, can that be used in some shape or form to make that contact a confirmation on Logbook of the World and count towards the DXCC? And the answer to that is yes. Yes, it can. And what happens there is, in EI, or in Ireland here anyway, and if you're watching from another country, I assume there is a card checker, as they're called, maybe multiple in larger countries for your DXCC. And what happens is you send your cards to them. In the case of EI, it's Dave EI9 FBB, so I've been informed, and they check them and make sure that they match and all of that, and whatever sort of checking they do, and they then interact with Logbook of the World or Contact Logbook of the World. I'm not exactly sure how that works out. Maybe somebody can put it in the comments. But either way, once that official card checker checks those cards, it can be used then as to confirm your Logbook of the World account, so it will count towards your DXCC. So that's good news, because I have a few countries that I may only have one contact in, and I'm hoping I'll get a paper card from them, but they don't use Logbook of the World. So to finish up, guys, I'd just like to really thank everybody who came back to my questions on the IRTS Facebook page, on comments on the videos, and even reaching out directly. And I'd like to particularly thank Keith Wallace, EI5KO of the South Dublin Radio Club, as he pointed me to the fact that he was going to be doing quite shortly after my last video a presentation on ham radio logging on the South Dublin Radio Club YouTube channel, which I'll share a link in the video below here to that particular video. And I'd advise you to subscribe to their channel as well. There's some great stuff in there. And out of that video, it was basically a demonstration of Log4OM, or Log for Old Man, I think it stands for. And I have to say, at the last time of my last video, I was using DX Keeper, and it was okay. It was doing okay for me, but I still had issues syncing everything to Logbook of the World. Seemed to work okay, but QRZ.com, I just couldn't get it to work with it, and they're the two electronic platforms that I use. And after watching the presentation on Log4OM, I actually downloaded that, and like a lot of these, it's a free program, and did a bit of tinkering. Takes a little bit of setting up and all of that, but to be honest with you, it's transformed my HF logging experience. I ended up actually also, just through a bit of my own research, being able to link the Yaesu here, the FT891 with cat control and a USB cable to the computer and to Log4OM. So now, when I log a contact, the frequency and everything is coming off the radio, and the UTC is on the computer, and it's just all is correct. So you're not worrying, did I get one digit wrong in the frequency, or that I wouldn't get a confirmation for it, or any of that. And it automatically uploads the Logbook of the World and downloads from it, and it automatically uploads to QRZ.com, which in my case are the two electronic platforms I use. So it has really transformed and streamlined my logging experience when I'm on HF. And I just, look, I'd say there's probably a separate video in setting up the cat control, which I probably will go through, just a specific instructional video. Probably will be my first instructional video on how to connect particularly the Yaesu. Very simple, I have to say, to the computer and Log4OM. And yeah, so I'd like to thank Keith for that, because that's what I'm using now, and I find it great, to be honest. Really do find it great. So look, guys, that's all for me. It was just a quick update and follow up on the last video about QSLing and logging and confirmations, and I hope some of that information might have helped you. So look, until the next time, we'll chat to you soon. 7 threes.